everybody, welcome to another lesson of learning Japanese. Today we're going to cover how to say to verb too much or to describe if something is too adjective. And in order to do that, we're going to employ another verb in and of itself, and that verb is sugiru, which is going to mean to go beyond, to exceed, something along those lines. That's the verb definition. In this expression, this grammar construct, it's just going to modify the first verb that we're using or the adjective that we're using to make it excessive, such as to verb too much or to be too much of the respective adjective that we're using. So when this Japanese grammar construct is used, similar to its English translation, it carries a negative connotation. When you say that someone is doing something too much, such as sleeping too much, that's obviously going to be interpreted as kind of negative. You shouldn't be doing that, and it works the same way in Japanese. So what we're going to do first is we're going to cover this grammar construct with the usage of verbs. And when we're using this grammar construct with verbs, what we're going to do is we're going to take the pre-mas form of the verb and we're simply going to add the verb sugiru to that after it, right after it, and we can conjugate sugiru into whatever conjugation we want to apply to our sentence. If it's in the past tense and we want to say someone was doing something too much, then we can conjugate sugiru into its past tense, sugimashita or sugita if you want to be plain. So with that said, let's jump into some examples now. For our first one, we have a really simple sentence. We have the line Saikin hamburgerを食べすぎる. And all this sentence is saying really is lately or recently I have been eating too much hamburgers. So let's break down the sentence bit by bit. First up we have Saikin, which is a word that we've used in examples so many times already. It means recently or lately. We have watashi, which is going to be me or I. We have wa marking me or I as the topic of the sentence. We have hamburger, which is hamburger. We have the direct object particle o right after it to mark it as the direct object of the verb taberu. And taberu is going to be in its pre-mas form here because that's exactly what we need. So taberu turns into tabe. Then we add sugiru after that simply, and this is going to be a plain sentence, so we just keep it as sugiru. So tabesugiru is going to translate to eating too much or eat too much, and we apply that to the rest of the sentence. So lately, I have been eating too much hamburgers. Saikin watashi wa hamburger o tabesugiru. For our next example sentence, we have the line Kinou hashirisugimashitaから足が痛いです. And so what this line is going to translate to is, yesterday I ran too much, so my legs hurt. Break it down bit by bit. First up we have kino, which means yesterday. We have hashiri, which is the pre-mas form of the verb hashiru, which means to run. And we're going to modify that pre-mas form of hashiru with sugiru, but we're going to translate sugiru into its polite past tense because we want to be polite and we want to express this in the past. So sugiru turns into sugimashita. We add the particle or conjunction kara after that to mean because of that. Then now we have the reasoning, which is ashi ga itai. Ashi means leg or legs here. We have ga marking as the subject, and then we have itai, which means to hurt or pain, so my legs hurt. Then we end the sentence with desu just because we're being polite. So all together again, yesterday I ran too much, so my legs hurt. Kinou hashirisugimashitaから足が痛いです. Now for our examples, we're going to move on to using adjectives with this grammar construct, and when we're using adjectives, what we need to know is that we use the stem form of the adjective. So when we're using e adjectives, that means we don't have that final e at the end of the adjective, we just use its stem. And as for na adjectives, they are kind of automatically in their stem form when you use them, so we don't have to drop anything or add anything for those. So for our first example for adjectives, let's go through an e adjective. So for our line, we have Sono eiga wa sugoku omoshirokatta ga mijikasugita. So what this line is going to translate to in English is that movie was really interesting, but it was too short. Let's break down the sentence bit by bit. First up, we have Sono eiga, which is that movie. Sono is that, eiga is movie. We have wa marking the eiga as the topic of the sentence. We have sugoku, which is an adverb that pretty much translates to really or very, and it's modifying the adjective right after it, which is omoshirokatta. Omoshirokatta is the e adjective omoshiroi in its past plain tense, so omoshirokatta. So then that becomes was interesting. And then we have the particle ga right after omoshirokatta to mean but. So we have the other half of the sentence coming in now, and that other half is mijikasugita. And this is the grammar construct here. We have the e adjective mijikai, which means short. We're going to drop that final e in the adjective mijikai because we need its stem. So then it becomes mijika, and now we need to add sugiru onto that. but we want sugiru to be in the past tense as well because we described the movie as being was interesting, so that's in the past. We need to be consistent with that tense. So we conjugate sugiru into sugita, which is the past plain form. Our sentence is plain overall, so we're keeping it plain. So altogether, once again, Sono eiga wa sugoku omoshirokatta ga mijikasugita is that movie was really interesting, but it was too short. For our last example sentence, we're going to use a na-adjective now. And like I said earlier, we don't really have to do anything for na-adjectives. All we're going to do is add sugiru after the na-adjective that we want to modify. For our example sentence, we have a pretty complex one this time around. For our line, we have Sono shigoto wa kiken sugiruから他の人に任せた方がいいと思う. So this example is more complicated than the previous ones. Let's break it down bit by bit. First up, we have sono shigoto, which means that job, that work. Shigoto is going to be job or work, and sono is that. We have the particle wa right after it to mark it as the topic of the sentence, and then we have the na-adjective kiken, which means dangerous. And kiken is a na-adjective, so we don't have to do anything other than add the sugiru after it. So that's exactly what we do. We have kiken sugiru, and that is going to translate to too dangerous. And with that, we're pretty much done analyzing the grammar construct part of the sentence, but let's just finish the rest for the sake of completion. After sugiru, which is going to stay in its dictionary form here just because we're in the present and we're being plain, we have the conjunction kara, and that is going to be because. So because that job is too dangerous, now we enter the other half of the sentence. We have hoka no hito. Hoka means other. Then we have the particle no right after, followed by hito, which means person, and this is going to be the noun of a noun grammar construct. So a person of other basically is just going to translate to someone else. We have the particle ni marking that other person as the indirect object to the verb that's about to follow, which is the verb makaseru. And this verb means to leave or to entrust something with somebody else. And this is going to be in its ta form because we're using another grammar construct here that we haven't covered yet, and that is the ta form plus ho ga I expression to mean it's best if you do this, or you should do this, or it's better if you do this. And so what that's going to translate to is it's best or it's better if you leave that job to somebody else because it's too dangerous. That's the whole line we have right there. Sono shigoto wa kiken sugiru kara hoka no hito ni makaseta hoga ii to omou. Oh, and I forgot the to omou at the end, which is just going to be the particle to marking that whole previous part of the sentence as kind of like a quote, and then we have the verb omou right after it, which means to think. So basically you're saying I think that, all of that stuff right there. So I think that you should leave this job to someone else because it's too dangerous. And so yeah, that is how we're using sugiru, the verb that means to go beyond, to exceed, to go over in this grammar construct, and it modifies these other things that we're using to make it mean too much adjective, to adjective, or to verb too much, and it expresses that idea of excessiveness, which is going to in turn represent this negative connotation. And yeah,